Hello and welcome to this Tiermaker episode of the Jeffrey podcast. Today's episode is about Fiona Apple. We're going to rank her 5 studio albums. My name is Gordon. I'm here with my brother John.
Hello.
And if you want to listen to any of the podcasts, anything like that, you can go to jeffreymusic.rocks. And there's links and articles and everything that we have done so far, including a few years ago, a podcast where we talked through the 5 albums of Fiona Apple and didn't really agree and came up with a slightly weird ranking, which we will go through now.
We didn't agree because you don't appreciate Fiona Apple properly.
Yes, that's a fair point. But, we kind of agreed a ranking. Well, we did agree a ranking.
Well, we agreed a ranking.
It depends on it's going into details and semantics of the word agree, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we ended up with a ranking that neither of us agreed with. If that's what you mean by agree, yes.
So we'll start with the first album, obviously. That is Tidal from 1996. So you are the Fiona Apple fan, so we'll let you go first. What do you think of it? Can you remember what you said at the time, and which tier would you put this album into?
Well, I can't remember what I said at the time, obviously. That's, going back years. But as we always say, this podcast doesn't operate at a rush. We do take our time and do our research. So these episodes don't come out that often. But I thought it was a really good debut with some incredibly well thought through lyrics, themes, some very strong songwriting across at least half the album. But I did think the other half of the album was slightly weaker and didn't feel like the songs were as well developed or as varied or as interesting as the other half of the album. So I think it was a great sort of opening statement of a fantastic artist, but I don't think it's quite splendid. So I would put it at decent.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of half agree with you there, although I think I just liked it a little bit less. I did think it was a mixture. It does seem incredibly mature. She was really quite young when she released this album, wasn't she?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it doesn't sound like it's, possibly a teenager, which I think she was.
Well, hang on, let's check. When was it released?
99.
No, it was before 99.
Sorry, no, not 99. 96.
96, hang on. She was born in 77. So what do you say, 96?
So
does that make a 19?
So she'd been 19, I think.
Blimey. So she was 19 when she released this, and some of the the songs, the strength of them, the lyrics, the attitude in some of it, especially sort of Sleep to Dream, is, as you said, very mature for somebody who's only 19. I mean, blooming hell. Let's not focus on what we were doing at 19.
Well, that's what I was going to say. If you think back to
skip past that quickly.
I think she's probably maturer than I am now.
Oh, God, yeah. I would definitely agree with that.
It's like proper adult stuff, isn't it? Which I've yet to tackle.
I think what you liked less about it is there's quite a lot of her over piano going in slightly jazzy directions and it feeling a bit meandery, I think is what you were saying at the time. And I do recognise some of that some of the songs do feel a little bit like that.
Yeah, I think so. I think she was quite she's heavy on the piano, literally, meaning like quite percussive as well, which I sort of found a little bit too much. But yeah, I think generally, it is a decent album. I didn't like all of it, but there's something like, particularly the last song, is it Carrion?
Yeah,
I really did like.
Oh, it's a great song, yeah. I
think particularly Sleep to Dream, as you said. I also like The Child Is Gone. I thought was really nice. Those especially, I think, are my favourites. So yeah, I'm happy with your ranking anyway. I think I agree, it's a bit of a mix, so we can leave that on decent. So the second album is When the Pawn from 1999. At the time, it was the longest album title of all time, which I think has been beaten subsequently. This we ranked top, and I thought generally, with the exception of 1 or 2 tracks, I liked everything on this album. Thought it was really good, very strong, and definitely sort of an improvement. It is, I think, a bit of a reaction to the previous album as well, and the reaction to the reaction, shall we say.
Yeah, I think it's a reaction to the reaction.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely, I mean, the album title is a reaction to the criticism, which is a lovely poem that she wrote, When the Pawn, but I'm not sure she needed to have put the entire poem as the title. I thought it was a bit pretentious, but I do think this is a really strong album. It's she builds really on that first album in a much kind of poppier, more accessible direction, maybe. I mean, certainly under pressure from a record company, that's what they were asking for. And you do get that. You get a kind of tighter, poppier, slightly more accessible, slightly less jazzy, slightly fuller band sounding album. And it is a really good album. we put it top, so I think we have to put it in banger. I don't think I would have put it top myself. I might have put it in splendid. Not sure, but between splendid and banger.
I think it's probably why it sort of appealed to me more than as well as it is more of a commercial album. And so it meant as somebody who doesn't appreciate Fiona Apple as much, this was a lot more accessible for me.
I think that was the point. I think that was the point of the record company, was to make it more accessible to non-fans or people that aren't into jazzy songstresses sitting at a piano. So it looked like mission accomplished then, fella.
The next album is Extraordinary Machine 2005. I seem to remember thinking that this was quite liking the album, but feeling that most of what she'd done on this album had been done previously, if not better, on the previous two albums. So sort of a backhanded compliment, really, of saying, yes, it's quite nice, but not massively new.
Yeah, I think I do disagree a bit here, because I think it's better than that. I think it does move forward from the previous album and it's a bit more personal, a bit more low key. So in that sense, it's a little bit more like the first album, but it's still got some of the sharpness and the more commercial edge of the second. I don't know. I think it's a very, very lovely album. It just takes a bit more time, a few more listens to get into. I actually probably now prefer it to When the Pawn, but I didn't at the time when we initially ranked these. So I would change my ranking probably now. But we have to be loyal to our original ranking because that's the concept of this silly thing that we're doing. So let's put it as at least splendid, because it was third in our ranking anyway, wasn't it?
It was, yes. So you would have it as splendid now?
Yeah, I mean, well, probably. I might have it as banger, but it's around there. It's top end of splendid, bottom end of banger, but I also think When the Pawn is top end of splendid, bottom end of banger.
So the next album is The Idler Wheel from 2012, and this is the time really that leaves me completely cold. It's really not my thing. It is a lot sparser, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I personally just didn't like it at all. So this is where the sort of ranking goes a bit crazy, because particularly the next two are these, like, would you put these nearer the top, wouldn't you, of the five?
Well, I wouldn't put The Idler Wheel nearer the top. I mean, I do like The Idler Wheel, but it is very sparse. I don't think there's any real full band on it. It's very just her. And again, very raw, very personal. But when you take out a lot of the instrumentation of a normal band, obviously you're left with a lot less variety. So you're really asking each bit that's left to do a hell of a lot more work to keep you interested over the length of an album. And that's harder. And as beautiful as her voice is, and, you know, as excellent as her playing is, it's just harder to maintain your interest in the same way as a more varied use of instruments is, I think. So I don't like this album as much as the other albums. So we put it bottom, which was mainly you. I wouldn't put it bottom. I'd actually put it above Tidal, but I'd probably put it in decent. I wouldn't put it up to splendid. Although I do think it's got some really splendid moments on it. It just doesn't cohere as much as a satisfactory listen as some of the others. But I do like it more than Tidal, so that would switch them around a little bit. But that's your influence, you see?
Yep.
Your malevolent influence.
Yeah, sorry about that, everybody. And talking of that, let's move on to 2020's Fetch the Bolt Cutters, the album that everyone in the world likes, except me.
Yeah, I love it. I think it really is I think it's her best by far. I think it's definitely a banger. I think it's just an album I never tire of. I listen to it reasonably often. I just think it's so good. It's varied, it's jerky and percussive, but it's also quite musical. It's still her sort of trademark, very personal stuff, but it's got a fuller sound. Okay, some of the songs may be a little underwritten here and there, bit raggedy edges, but no, I think it's a very clever album. I remember you saying you felt it was a bit like a musical.
Yeah,
I don't really see, but you know,
I think it did remind me of, in particular, like more like 50s musicals that were a bit jazzy. That's what it kind of reminded me of. But yes, I'm not really going to say much because I just didn't like it. So I don't really have anything constructive to say.
I wonder if you changed your silly opinions by now, in the years since we actually did this, whenever this was, about 4 years ago, whether you'd actually corrected your wrong opinions.
No, I'll need a little bit more time, I think.
Right, well, you get to it, fella, because it's an absolute belter.
So if we were ranking them today, what, on your today's opinion, rather, we obviously are ranking them today, what would your ranking be? So you've got Fetch the Bolt Cutters top?
Yeah, I'd put Fetch the Bolt Cutters top, then probably Extraordinary Machine, then When the Pawn, then The Idler Wheel, and last Tidal.
But that's all. But you do like them all.
I like them all, yeah. But my go-to would be Extraordinary Machine and Fetch the Bolt Cutters.
So they're your top 2.
Yeah.
So I think that's it. So just a reminder that you can go to jeffreymusic.rocks for all the links to the podcasts. There's articles. The podcasts are in Word form as well, if you would rather read our rankings. If you want to do all the clicking and things you're meant to do on YouTube.